Good morning. Good morning out there. Social media. How you guys doing this morning? This your boy, Pastor Mike. Definitely excited about what God is doing. Definitely excited about this morning. Man, it's just an awesome day to be in the Lord. It's just an awesome day to be in the Lord. Man, I'm excited about the things of God. I'm particularly excited about this morning's message. God had been brewing this in my heart for some time, and definitely just excited about it. Uh, I'm gonna give Facebook a few moments to build up the audience before we actually get started, man. But I'm definitely excited about this morning, man. I've been praying before this thing and putting it together, and I pray that it bless you. I pray that it bless you. I pray that it open up your eyes, strengthen you, and encourage you to go further and to press against your circumstances and press out and become everything that God has called you to be. It gives you the strength to fight against every tactic that the enemy may ever throw against you so that you could be who God essentially called you to be. I'm excited about it this morning because I realized something that in order for us to be who God called us to be, in order for us to walk in the manifested glory of God here on earth, we have to walk according to a set of principles. We have to live our life in such a way that allows, watch this, that allows the enemy to understand that even though, my God, even though we're in this world, we understand that we're not of this world. Even though we may be plagued by the tragedies or the different events that may happen just by a byproduct of living, that we are not condemned by it. Hey, good morning. Hey, Melinda, God bless your daughter. Thank you so much for being on. We don't have to fall short to it. We don't have to fall short to it. We are actually greater than that. For the Bible tells us that greater works shall we do. And so I do believe that this particular message and this particular topic that God gave me on this morning is going to give you the strength to see that you have the ability to transform. You have the ability to do greater works. You have the ability to make your circumstances submit to the will of God for your life. You have the ability to overcome. You have the ability to be more than a conqueror. So my topic this morning is apply pressure to your circumstances. We have to understand something that we all live in a set of circumstances. We all live and exist in a set of circumstances. And sometimes the circumstance that we live in or exist in is not what we feel or we believe is for us. Sometimes we're in circumstances that seem contrary to the promises of God, seem contrary to the will of God for our lives. We have great dreams and ambitions, but we have this thing inside of us that wants to come out, but we're in circumstances that seem to press against us. It's like we're constantly fighting to become who we are called to be. And I found out that if we press against our circumstances, we are called as a people of God, we are called to mold our life after the pattern that God has set forth for us to become. We are called to mold our life. Your life is the byproduct of your press. However you press, however you believe, whoever God called you to be, or whoever you believe that you are, you must press. You have to mold. That's why when we obey the will of God, when we obey the ways of God, what we're doing is we're molding or we're pressing against our circumstances and saying, I'm going to mold my life in such a way that I'm going to be able to not only experience the blessings of God, but I'm going to walk in them and live in them. I am not going to allow my life to be submitted to conditions that I do not believe were meant for me. So I'm molding my life. I'm pressing against my circumstances. Yes, I'm pressing because I truly believe I am who God says I am. I am this person that's on the inside of me. I am greater. I am worth more. I am anointed. I am the head. I am the tail. I'm more than this. And so we have to apply pressure to our circumstances. Many people are stuck because they submit or they give in to their circumstances. They give into the conditions of their life that they do not believe in, and so they become a byproduct of their environment. They become a byproduct of their circumstances. It can become a byproduct of the conditions in their life. Watch this, that was meant to develop them, not to destroy them. It was meant to develop them, not to destroy them. Watch this. What are we waiting on? I want to ask this question this morning. I had a couple questions. What are you waiting on God to do? Really ask yourself that question. What are you waiting on God to do? If you're waiting on God to swoop down and do the work, you miss the whole point of the gospel. God is not going to come do what he told you to do. I need you to think about that for a moment. God is not going to do what he told you specifically to do. God gives commands. He gives orders. And as a people, we are charged to walk out the orders that God placed, or walk in the commands that God placed in our life. And when we walk in the commands, what we do is we activate the power of God to move on our behalf. My God. Watch this. When the Bible says, I'll make a way out of no way. When God says, I'll make a way out of no way, you must remember something. In order for God to make a way out of no way, he has to have somebody who is willing to obey his commands in order for his will to manifest. Oh, man, I'm going to get into some murky water, you guys. When Moses parted the Red Sea, we know it was not at the hand of Moses. It was at the command of God. God told him to lift the rod. And because Moses obeyed God, God's power parted the Red Sea. What are you waiting on? Sometimes most of us are stuck because we have this dream, we have this desire to do big things, but we're so busy complaining and murmuring about our circumstances. So what, you don't have enough money or resources. If you'll do what God said, God will bring the provisions that are needed to manifest his word. The Bible says God looks over his word to ensure that it does what it was set out to do. What word is in you that you have not yet been obedient or have not walked in what God said? Is your hold up you? Is your hold up you, not your circumstances, not the fact that you don't have the money, not the fact that you don't have the support you think you need, not the fact that you don't have what other people may have, but is it the fact that you have not yet obeyed or consistently did what God said, that the manner that it will tear down every stronghold and everything that blocks you from walking in opportunity. Watch this. Opportunity is created by your obedience. Opportunity is created by you doing what you're supposed to do now so you can have what you're supposed to have to come in the future. What are you doing? What are you doing? Don't allow your circumstances to apply pressure to you. You apply pressure to your circumstances. Don't allow what you're going through, don't allow the conditions to apply pressure to squeeze the life out of you, to squeeze the dream out of you, to squeeze the purpose out of you, to squeeze the hope out of you, to squeeze you out of existence. Your circumstances may not fit your promise, but you got to remember that you are called, transformed by the renewing of your mind. You are called not to conform to your circumstances. Do not conform to your situation. You got to be able, watch this, when we walk by faith, that means I got to walk outside of what I'm in. I got to walk in what I believe, not what I see. Oh God. I got to be able to walk. That's how I apply pressure to my circumstances, because I'm in my circumstances, but I choose to live in my convictions. I choose to live in my promise, not my problem. I choose to live for what God has for me, no matter what it looks like around me. And then what that does is that causes me to be able to push on my circumstances and say, you're going to submit to the promises of God on my life. You're going to submit to the will of God for my life because I'm going to live according to this promise no matter what it looks like. I am defying my circumstances. I am molding them. I'm applying pressure because my circumstance is temporary, but my call is permanent. That's why I got to understand. What do I mean by that? My circumstance is temporary, but my call is permanent. My circumstances is where I am right now, but my call is who I am. My God. My call is who I am. So I can't allow my circumstances to change my identity. I can't allow my circumstances to change who I am. And that's where many believers, and that's where we get stuck at. Because we feel we can't fulfill the call on our life. We can't be who we've been called to be because of the circumstances that we're in right now. But if you never apply pressure, if you never push back and tell your circumstances, I am who God says I am. I'm going to walk in the manner in which God called me to be. I'm telling my circumstances, you gotta break. You gotta shift. You gotta change. Because guess what? Your circumstances does not change because you left the area. Your circumstances begin to change when you change. Your circumstances change according to your walk. Your circumstances change according to your talk. Your circumstances change according to your actions. Your life does not change because you move locations. Your life does not change because you got new relationships. Your life does not change by that. You have to be the change in your life in order for your life to have the change that is so needed to have what God said you're supposed to have. Oh, you got to walk in it. And many of us are not applying pressure. I want to help. We're waiting, but we're not working. We're waiting, but we're not working. Is it quite possible? Watch this, that the pressure of the circumstances in your life is meant to bring out the pressure within you to push back. Is it possible that God put you in a condition, God put you in a circumstance that is meant to bring the best out of you? That's some good talking. That's some good thinking right there for me. I need y'all to think about that. God bless you, Brother Greg. Hey, Sister Kitty, God bless you. Watch this. Watch this. Is it possible while you're complaining about your circumstance? Watch this, Brother Robinson. While you're complaining about your condition, Trey, while you're complaining about what you're going through, is it possible that what you're going through, God is using to develop you? God is using to strengthen you. God is using to further the cause within you. There are many times that the difficulty of our life, oh man, the things that we are challenged in is the things that bring the best out of us. We are not, we are not often, we do not often become greater because of the comforts of our life. We become greater because of the challenges of our life. How many times have you found yourself doing something because they said you couldn't do it? How many times you found yourself working harder because somebody said you couldn't do it? No, what's the old saying? No pain, no gain. You got to apply pressure. You got to push back on the thing that is denying you of the desire that God wants to meet in your life. You got to say to the situations and the conditions around you that I'm not going to allow me to make you comfortable with being around me. I got. Can I tell you something? I'm not going to allow people who have a poverty mindset to be comfortable with me. I'm not going to allow people around me. Matter of fact, if you're around me, you're going to want to dream bigger because I'm going to live a life that says I got to be big. I'm not going to allow my conditions. Many of us miss our opportunities because we live in the confines of our situation. We live in bondage. We live according to the conditions of our life instead of living according to what we believe about ourselves. Some of us, we are not bound because people left us. We're not bound because of the lack of money. We are bound because we look at our life. God bless you, Sister Noble. And we look at our conditions and we never apply pressure to say, I'm going to break the chains. I'm going to tear down the walls. I'm going to tear down the lies. I'm going to tear down the deficiencies of my life in order for me to exist in the life that I know is meant for me. I'm not going to allow it. So watch this. There are many of you guys who out there are dreaming. I feel this in my spirit. You're dreaming, but when you wake up, your reality doesn't look like your dream. So instead of you working towards it, you just rather allow that dream to remain a good ideal. You'll never get nowhere. You got to be, watch this. When we press back, we ignite. Watch this. We press back, we ignite the power of God. We got to understand something. Every spiritual law is activated on earth by our obedience towards the ways of God. Everything and every law that God has ever placed to protect us, to provide for us, to cause us to go to greater levels is activated based on our willingness to obey. You cannot activate a spiritual law or a law of God in disobedience. When God says, I'm the head and not the tail, how do you activate it? You activate it by believing that you're the head and living a head life. You got to operate in the principles. When the Bible says, try me in this and watch this, see that I don't open up a window and pour you out a blessing. You activate the opening of the window by trying God right there. Many of us, we are praying to God, our God, but we have not activated portals that allow God to intervene for our life. We are not activated. We are not applying the pressure that says to the enemy, God bless you, Slick Man. Good morning, my bro. We got to activate the portals. Your dream will never come into existence if you never walk in it. No one is going to make your dream. No one is going to push you into destiny. No one is going to make it happen. You got to do the work. I don't care how many resources you have. I don't care how many relationships you have. You got to do the work. You can't buy yourself into destiny. You can't buy yourself out of a circumstance. There are many people who do not change, but they elevate and they find themselves back in the same conditions that they left out of because when they were elevating, they weren't changing mentally. If you don't change your mind about your circumstances and say, not a product of where I am, I'm a product of who I am, my God. I'm a product of this dream on the inside of me. I'm a product of what God called me to be. I'm not trying to be like everybody else. I am going to be who I am, no matter what my circumstances say. But I got to live like that. Many people end up going back to where they started from because when they were elevating, they weren't changing. Their mind wasn't changing. They still looked at life at the same way. They still looked at their conditions the same way. But you got to get to a place in your life. We have to get to a place in our life. If I'm going to apply pressure to my circumstances, I got to break the mold of my circumstances. I got to break the mold of the fact that I'll use me. The fact that, watch this, my daddy wasn't there. I got to break the mold of the fact that everybody in my family went through a divorce. I got to break the mold that everybody in my family has not been successful in business. I got to break the mold. Those are the circumstances. I'm not just talking about where you live. I'm talking about the things that plague your bloodline, such things as debt. Being living check to check, not being able to see life and experience life. You are called to break the mold. You got to apply the pressure. Sometimes the circumstances of your life is merely a trick of the enemy to keep you without having hope for what's in you. But you got to apply pressure. And how do you apply that pressure? Living according to the dream that's in you and not the situations around you. Not looking at the failures, oh my God, of the people in your bloodline and saying, this is just who I'm going to be. This is what I'm going to be. No, you are better. But you got to apply the pressure. You got to apply the pressure. Watch what the text says. Here's what we got to do. We got to take ownership. I have to take ownership of my emotions in every circumstance of my life. The reason why many of us are losing is because we won't own our situations. We won't own our own circumstances. Watch this. Pastor, what do you mean? Make that very clear. Watch this. Although my father wasn't there, although I probably did get proper teachings on certain things, at the end of the day, I was born by myself. Let me just be real. I was born by myself. So whatever I lacked in life or whatever I was missing or what I thought I was missing, I can't blame the people or the things around me. I got to go get it for myself. I got to go get what I feel that is missing in me in order for me to fulfill the call on my life. Is it possible that the thing that you feel that you're missing is true? But instead of you blaming and complaining about not having it, why don't you go get it for yourself? Why don't you go get the information? Why don't you go get the knowledge and begin to apply those things to your life so that you could be the best you that you know you can be? Many of us, we complain, well, my daddy wasn't there, da, 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 da. Or I didn't have the money like he had or she had. No, but I got it out the mud. I got it the best way I know how. I was self-educated, self-taught, or I sat up under somebody that taught me and groomed me for what God called me to be. I cannot allow my dream, I cannot allow my destiny to die. Watch this. I can't allow them to die because if my dream or my destiny dies, then I die. You'll wake up every morning feeling like a failure because you did not do the work. You did not apply the pressure. You allow life to squeeze, my God. You allow your circumstances. You allow what you were looking at. You allow what surrounded you to squeeze the light, to squeeze the dream out of you, to squeeze the promise out of you, to squeeze it out of you and smear it all over the world. And watch this, you become a product of your environment instead of being the change that your environment needs. You could transform the generations behind you by applying pressure to the circumstances that surround you. But you got to take ownership. You got to take ownership. You can't allow your emotions to dictate your next move. You got to allow, no, take that back, Pastor Mike. No, that was right in the instance. You can't allow your negative emotions to dictate your next move. You got to allow the emotions to dictate the move that, watch this, empowers you to be what you see yourself as. How do you see yourself? Watch this. You don't have to act like you got it if you got it within you. If you're a millionaire, I need somebody to catch this morning. If you're a millionaire, act like a millionaire. Whether or not you got a dollar or not, act like a millionaire. You got to act like what you are, because until you act like what you are, watch this, if you're only allowing what you have or what you achieve to cause you to act like what you believe, then really what you're saying, you believe more in the stuff than you do you. You believe more in the stuff than you do you. So you act like what you're supposed to be when you get the stuff. But if you don't act like what you are, regardless of having the accomplishments of the stuff, then there's a problem in you that needs to be addressed. Watch this. I ain't get high-minded when I got money. I was high-minded before I got money. I was high-minded when I was broke. I was bougie. I just want to be. I've always been high-minded. You can ask my brother. We used to, I used to go to certain clubs and parties and places, and I used to act like I ran the joint because guess what? In my mind, that's how I saw myself. I walk in places with a certain level of confidence because guess what? That's how I see myself. I may not. I remember one year. I remember one year I was telling my church. I went out to the Saks Fifth before I could afford stuff like that, and I was trying on shoes, and I tried on every shoe. And when the lady asked me when I was going to buy something, no, not now because I didn't have the money. But I went in there as if I had the money because I'm gonna always be myself. That's where we apply pressure. I told my circumstances, guess what? It's not me. And one thing that's not going to exist in my life, and I need somebody to hear this today, is not I'm not going to allow anything in my life that does not look like me to remain. How do I kill things in my life that don't look like me? By constantly acting like who I am. If you're prosperous, act prosperous. Even when you don't have the money that we say makes you prosperous. Watch this. You can't take authority until you take ownership. Authority gives you the right to give commands. The authority gives you the right to say to the mountain. The authority gives you the right to speak things that are not as though they were. You cannot walk in authority until you first take ownership. Because if you can't take ownership, you become double-minded. Your mind is everywhere. One day you're good, the next day you're not. Because you have not taken ownership of the emotions and the circumstances. You have not taken ownership of the hurt. Watch this. Some hurt is help if you take ownership of it. Every lesson that I've ever learned, everything that I've ever been through in my life has taught me how to be a better person. But the challenge was to take ownership of the emotions of the things that I went through, the things that hurt me, the things that caused conflict in me, the things that I did not think was right, the things that I think could have, God, have you ever had that conversation? God, you didn't have to do it that way. I was hurt by that. I didn't like how that happened. God, we could have done it differently. I'm a good person. And so my emotions were causing me to be angry and bitter at the situation. And the circumstances of my life was applying pressure to my identity, and it was squeezing me and making me shrink in who I was. God bless you. Thank you, Sister Kitty. I'm glad this is blessing you. Causing me to shrink in who I was. And so one day I woke up and I said, you know what? I'm not that guy. That is not me. I don't feel that on the inside of me. And I said, I got to show up. I can't let this show me out. And as I begin to show up, it began to mold my circumstances. My life began to change because I took ownership. And because I took ownership, I was able to speak to my situation. And I was speaking with the power that God gave me because I began to believe in who God made me despite what my life looked like. Despite what my life looked like, I began to apply pressure because I woke up and said, you know what? I'm going to take ownership of this situation. And because I took ownership of my feelings and my thoughts and my emotions, and I began to live according to what God mandated on my life. And I want let me clear that up real quick. We all have more than one mandate. I was mandated to be a father. I was mandated to be a husband. I was mandated. These are some of the things. So I don't want us just, you might not be mandated. If you are a father, be a father. Let me say this out. Watch this, watch this, watch this. If you can't afford to do certain things, be a father still. If you're mandated to be a business owner, be that business owner, even when you don't have the business yet. You have to walk in what you are supposed to be, regardless if you're there or not. That's how you apply pressure to your circumstances. You got to remember, and I'll tell you, Anybody who is doing anything in their dream, there is a constant pressure against them to stop doing what they've been called to do. Every business owner, every pastor, every actor, every ball player, every teacher has the pressure to not do what they've been assigned to do. Every parent, every father, every mother has wanted to give up at some point. Grandparents, grandmothers, like, it's just too much. So, in other words, the pressure of the circumstances wanted to squeeze them out of existence. But instead, you got to live according to what is in you. You got to handle your responsibility and respond with the ability to carry forth, even if it don't look like the way it's supposed to be carried. Don't look like it. I know they say things like, my son, one day we were working out, he said, you got to lift with your knees, lift with your knees. And I was lifting something. And guess what? My objective was to lift it. I understand I want to lift it right. But if my objective is to lift it, watch this. Until I get it right, at least let me lift it. Are y'all hearing it? Some of us, we are so busy trying to get it right that we never get it done. My. We are so busy trying to come out the box right that we never get started. So we stay in the box. So we have no authority. So we got to take ownership. We got to take authority. Then the last one is take a risk. What do you mean by that, Pastor? You may not do it the way everybody else do it. You may not do it the way it's supposed to be done when you start. But and I want to say it this way. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Lonzo Ball made it to the NBA with the ugliest jump shot in the world. I mean, Lonzo Ball jump shot is ugly, but he was called to be in the NBA. Did y'all catch that? He did not shoot the jump shot the way everyone else thought he should have, but he did it the way he felt in himself to do, and it got him to the next level. I wonder, are you missing the next level because you're trying to look like everybody else? You're trying to do it like everybody else. When you do what you're assigned to do, when you do what you're called to do the way you know how, God will allow the provisions that you need to make it to the next level. You don't make it to the next level by doing it the way others do it. You make it to the next level by doing it the way God designed for you to do it. You may take a bit from them, a bit from her, a bit from them, and put your character together. But there are some things that God has assigned specifically for you to do, and you got to be willing to do it that way. That's how you apply pressure to your circumstances and your circumstances. And you break your circumstances and you cause them to work for you. But you got to apply the pressure. You got to live according to what's in you. You got to realize that the reason God put it in you, oh man, this is going to bless somebody right now. Is it possible that the reason God put it in you is because everybody else wasn't doing it the way they're supposed to? Is it possible that you're a trendsetter? Is it possible that you were created to break the mold? Is it possible that you're a pioneer? Is it possible that God is causing you to transform the industry? Is it possible that God gave you insight for a time such as this? Is it possible? Is it possible? You got to break out. And you got to say, you know what? I don't fit everybody more, but guess what? I'm me. Nobody's looking for a copycat. We need somebody to be original. Be you. Be you. Because I found out this. When I'm me, I meet up with like-minded people. Or I find out that my relationships are strengthened because people respect who you are. People recognize real. Be real. Be 100. I'm not like everybody else, but I'm like Mike Edwards. And when you meet me, you realize this dude pretty legit. This dude cool. I ain't stunned. This is how I am. And so when I found out when they don't like how I am, that's cool. Because I was never trying to impress them. See, watch this. I don't do first time impressions. I do life impressions. I'm Mike Edwards. When you meet me, this is who you get. This is who I am. Because if who I am don't impress you, then we weren't meant to walk together and we won't do each other good. But if you look up, that's a pretty, yeah. And then I realized sometimes, watch this. While we're trying to break out, here's where many of us are held back. Here's why many of us don't break out of our circumstances, because we hold ourselves back because we're so busy trying to fit in. Is it possible that people, oh my God, is it possible that you were meant to fit in? And while you're trying to fit in, you're frustrated because you're changing who you are. And watch this. Let me be honest. I'm going to be 100 because I'm going to be Mike Edwards. And when you see Mike Edwards, you're going to know this who he is. But I'm not going to try to fit in to fit the mold of somebody else. I'm not trying to fit in to be part of the clique, because I realize something. When you fit in, you'll often get left out when you need them. When you fit in, when you need them, they won't be there for you because you weren't ever genuine. It was something about you. So that's how you apply pressure to your circumstances. You be you. Be confident in you. Stand tall in being you. Because when you start to be you, everything that shows up after that will work for you and not against you. Will work for you and not against you. Your situation will work for you. Watch this. When you're bold enough to be you, even the bad that works or seems to work against you will end up working for you. My God, y'all better hear that. David, you look through the Bible, you see David, you see Joseph, you see Moses, you see Jesus, you see Melchizedek, you see Noah, you see all these different men and women of God. And one thing, Elijah, none of them were perfected, but all of them were real. None of them got it right all the time, but all of them were real about who they were. Flaws and all. But they were real about who they were. That's what I mean. That's how you apply pressure to your circumstances, by being real about being you. And don't let no one or anything tell you anything different. When you walk in, you hold up, man, this is who I am. Watch this. I tell this story, I'm getting ready to go. I remember one day that my brother was on, either one of my brothers, my biological and my lifelong brother, Cedric and Jeremiah. One day we was in the club, we got kicked out. We got kicked out. Yeah. We balling. So watch this. I've always been that guy. I told you I've always been that guy. I walked in the club as if I owned it. And I went to the bar and started buying up bottles, and they thought I had the money. And at the end, I did it. I didn't have it. I use that story all the time to say the only reason they gave me the bottles on tap was because I walked in like I had it. Like I had it. I've always been the type of guy that, watch this, you're never gonna know. Watch this, you're never gonna know when I'm broken, when I'm not. Let me be honest with you. You're never gonna know that. Because guess what? One, I'm not gonna ever be without. But two, I don't allow what I have to define me. That's just who I am. I walk with that level of confidence. I walk in that level of lifestyle to where you'll be surprised when I don't have it, because I still act like I got it. Because I'm going to be me. And every time I apply pressure to my circumstances, I watch God move on my behalf, because he told me. That's what he said to me. You got it. What do you mean? You got it. You believe in who I called you to be. And you won't let no circumstances keep you from being that. So this morning, what I want to tell you today, be you. Don't let your circumstances change you. When the Bible says, be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, what it's really saying, Do not conform to the circumstances of your life. Do not conform to the world's way. Do not conform to what they're saying about you, what they think about you. If that's not you, do not conform to it. Be who you are in season and out of season. Walk in it. Be confident. The Bible even tells us, cast not thy way thy confidence, because in it is great reward. You got to be confident, not arrogant, not cocky, but confident in who you are. Because when you're confident in who you are on the inside, God will reward you on the outside. When you walk in who you are, even though you don't have what the world says, identify that gives you the identity of it, God will give you the reward to have what the world says is supposed to identify you, as long as you're able to remain who you are. So today I want you to tap into it. That's how you apply pressure to your circumstances. Tap into who you are. Tap into who you are and be who you are in season and out of season. I thank you guys so much for giving me the opportunity to speak into your life. I pray that it bless you. Look, as always, if you need prayers, you can put them in the comment sections, or you can put it in the inbox, and I'll definitely get to praying for you guys. Also, man, thank you guys who sow into me periodically. I appreciate all the gifts and sowing to the word. It definitely is a blessing to my life. And as always, you guys, y'all remember that watch this. Wash your hands and wash your soul. This your boy, Pastor Mike, signing out. And thank you all for be catching the replay. And thank you for sharing and liking it. Peace.